Hey all you action figure enthusiasts out there, JC here, and for today's video I am going to be sharing my top 10 favorite G.I. Joe classified figures for 2023. So yesterday I did a video sharing my top 5 Marvel Legend figures. If you're into Marvel Legends and you haven't checked that one out already, please do. Also, if you're new to the channel, please think about subscribing and hitting the bell notification so you're alerted every time I upload a new video. Now, actually, to be more specific, I'm going to give you my top 5 G.I. Joe characters and then my top 5 Cobra. So I'm not going to do 10 through 1. I'm going to do 5 through 1 for both Cobra and then G.I. Joe. And I got to be honest, it was really difficult even narrowing it down. There are so many figures that Hasbro did this year that I want to say, deserves to be in the top 5, but I can only do so many. Almost practically every figure could feasibly make this list. But I did narrow it down to my top 5 favorites for both Cobra and G.I. Joe. And if you haven't heard me say this before, if I was picking the best action figure line overall for 2023, hands down, in my opinion, it would be G.I. Joe Classified. I thought the same thing last year for 2022, and I think this past year, 2023, was even better. So Hasbro has just really been outdoing themselves with G.I. Joe Classified, and again, for me personally, I think it is the best action figure line out there right now. But let's get into my top 5 list for both G.I. Joe and Cobra, and we're going to start off with the G.I. Joe team first.
Something in there bothers Snake Eyes, Tripwire.
And I know better than to doubt Snake Eyes' sixth sense, Scarlet. I don't pick up any life form readings. There's some funny blips on my scope, but they could be from radioactivity.
So this one I debated probably the most on. Originally I was thinking maybe Shipwreck or even Bazooka. And those are definitely, as far as the characters themselves, are more favorites of mine. But at the end of the day, I ended up on this Tripwire figure, which is a deluxe figure. And I have not broken these up between deluxes and regular figures and such. I'm just giving you my favorite figures. So obviously some of these will cost more if it's a deluxe type figure. And Tripwire here is a deluxe figure. But the reason why I ended up choosing this one for my number 5 is because, again, Tripwire has never been a favorite character of mine, nor is he one that was widely used in like the cartoon or even the comics and such. But I felt like Hasbro really kind of propelled this character to a new height with this updated classified figure over like its original 3 3/4 inch release. So because of that reason alone, I felt like Tripwire deserved to be here in the top 5. So again, this is a deluxe figure and this was a Hasbro Pulse exclusive, but because they did such a good job with it and turned what I kind of felt like was a lackluster character before, they kind of turned him into a pretty cool character. He comes in at number 5 for 2023.
Cut it out! All of you! These nightmares, they're making everybody act crazy. Now, cool it, or I'll show you a real nightmare.
Now, coming in at number 4 for me is the G.I. Joe Classified Lowlight figure. So Lowlight is another one that I was never really a super huge fan of. But again, Hasbro just really did an awesome job with this one. Now, this one is kind of on par if you own the last 3 3/4 inch version of Lowlight that Hasbro did. That one was really a stellar figure as well. And they kind of took that and brought it to the 6-inch line with this figure. And one of the things I really like about this figure is this guy's got a lot of various accessories, a lot of different guns and things like that. And I like how they've made it so you can basically incorporate all of his gear on the figure. So that's something I really like when you have these figures with a lot of accessories and everything, where you can actually store pretty much everything on the figure. That to me is a real plus. So again, Lowlight's not a favorite character of mine, but Hasbro did an outstanding job on this figure. Really the only downside on this one is when you do have like his backpack on and stuff, he does get a little bit top heavy, so he will fall over fairly easy. But minor complaint there again. Number 4 is Lowlight for 2023.
Oh no. Got to make this shot perfect.
Next up, we've got Torpedo. So Hasbro really has excelled on these like specialty characters. So you'll also, I don't want to give it away, but you'll see in the next, my number 2 is also a specialty character. So, you know, our scuba diver, our first scuba diver for the G.I. Joe team, I'm sure Wetsuit will come at some point down the road. But, you know, Torpedo was the original. And again, Hasbro just did a really nice job with all the gear and everything, really making this one stand out to me.
We got the coordinates cold, pretty lady. And I'm talking cold. How do you read it?
So again, another specialty. This is our first G.I. Joe Arctic Trooper. Now they've done a number of different Arctic Troopers over, you know, the years, different characters who, you know, specialize in the Arctic. But Snow Job was the original and probably my favorite of them all. And again, Hasbro's just done a fantastic job with all of the gear and allowing you to store most of the gear on the figure. Capturing the look of the original figure in many ways. Again, like with Lowlight, when you have all the gear on his back and everything, he can be a little bit top heavy. But probably my biggest complaint for the figure is just every time I look at the figure, I want like a polar bear. You know, the vehicle, the first Arctic vehicle that they did for the G.I. Joe line, which is not probably as cool as the Snowcat. The Snowcat had its own driver. The polar bear did not, but I think everyone had their Snow Job riding the polar bear. So that's really my biggest downside on this figure. But again, Hasbro just did a fantastic job with the overall look, feel, and gear on this one.
Anybody else have a problem?
Okay, so my number 1 is, I'm actually kind of slipping in here. You could probably argue this one to be a 2024 figure. Some people got it, you know, like started getting him last week, and some people are just now starting to get him. So again, you know, this one could go either way. But I'm going to go on and put him here in 2023, and it is the new Mutt and Junkyard. So this one is one of my favorite characters. I always liked Junkyard and Mutt, with, you know, the dog handler of the team. So Hasbro again has just done a very awesome job with the overall look and feel of the figure. A Junkyard is great. I like the 2 different head sculpts that he comes with. I would have maybe liked a more vicious open mouth head sculpt, but still I think Hasbro did a great job here. Has nice articulation. I like the harness that he wears. The original figure just had like a leash and collar. But with this one, he actually has a harness, which I think is more realistic. Now, as far as Mutt's accessories, he has things like the gas mask and the helmet, and you get 2 different goggles. I will say it's weird that they didn't give him his classic weapon, which was like I can't remember if it was an Uzi or a MAC-10. I think it was an Uzi, but you know, one of those types of weapons that had a silencer. So they've given him this rifle instead, which I mean doesn't look bad, but I often wonder when they don't, you know, a lot of times, you know, they give us weapons that are true to the original figures, but in this case they decided to switch it up. Again, they gave him a billy club, which is not something the original figure had, but I guess they felt it was close enough to the little you know, swatch thing that he used to have. But despite not having the exact same accessories that the original figure did, I still think they did a fantastic job with this one. The overall look, again, and this is because he's one of my favorite characters. That's why he's coming in at number 1.
Remember, a cobra's a snake, and snake is sneak spelled sideways.
We shall see how G.I. Joe likes the bite of a sneak's fangs. Cobra!
Now for the bad guys, and if I had to choose, like if I was doing this as a true top 10, doing 10 through 1, I probably would have the Joes in the first half and the Cobras 5 through 1, because I tend to like the Cobra figures more, the bad guys more than the G.I. Joe team. But let's start with the first one for Cobra.
Firefly! Strike!
So this figure would be higher up on my list, but the one thing that he has, which seems to be a common issue with most people's figure, this Firefly version 2, is a fairly loose ab crunch joint. Now it's not so loose, at least on mine, where you can still get him in pretty good poses and everything. So it's not that big of an issue on mine. But again, I felt like this one would have probably come in higher, because while the first Firefly they did, the Target store exclusive one in the line, wasn't a bad figure, there were definitely some things that were kind of off about it, and with this one they corrected all of that. This is much more true to the original look for Firefly, and I think just overall is a better figure. So again, I'm keeping him at 5 just because the ab crunch joint is a little bit loose on it, and I think that's a pretty common problem with this figure for whatever reason. But because it's not so loose on mine, at least, and I think it's such a cool figure, I do have him coming in at number 5.
Yeah, well, it looks like what we got here is a couple of G.I. jungle rats. And the only thing a rat's good for is target practice. Ready? Aim!
So for this one, Copperhead, another favorite character of mine, even though he wasn't widely used, and he was only used here and there in the cartoon and stuff. So this isn't a character that you saw often, but I always thought he was cool. I love the water moccasin. I think that's one of the cooler Cobra vehicles. I'd love to see Hasbro do a water moccasin at some point. I feel like they could do that. It's small enough that they could do that and it not have to be a HasLab. If they ever did like a Cobra Moray, the hydrofoil, that would probably need to be a HasLab. But I feel like the water moccasin, which was a smaller boat, I feel like they could get away with it. They did a Fortnite boat that was very similar in size to the water moccasin. So again, kind of like with Snow Job wanting the polar bear, with the downside here with having Copperhead is every time I look at him, I'm like, damn, I wish I had a water moccasin to go with him. So hopefully one day Hasbro will give us that. But this is a solid figure. It does a great job of capturing the look and feel of the original figure. Again, and just always a cool character of mine, which is why he's making my top 5 list this year.
So our enemies survived the avalanche. We must now ensure an end to their good fortune.
As you command, Storm Shadow.
Now, just like on the G.I. Joe side of things, I think Hasbro really outdid themselves with some of the specialty troopers this year. So coming in at my number 3 is the Cobra Snow serpent. So again, I love all the accessories. I love how you can store most of the accessories. I'm not a fan of the bear skin or the wolf skin head, but you don't need that on the figure. It looks great without that. And again, you can store most of the accessories on the figure, which I think is nice. This is one I remember having finally. This is the 3 3/4 inch figure I remember having finally as a kid. I actually got it when I was on vacation in Florida, so I had some good memory. I know the snow guy I got when I was in Florida, but I have some fond memories of the character, and I think Hasbro did a fantastic job with this one. And I actually ended up getting 2 of this one for my collection.
Cobra Eels!
You're coming with us, Mara. Now.
And then again, just like with G.I. Joe, my number 2 is the Cobra Eel. So on the Joe side, we had Snow Job and Torpedo. On the Cobra side, we've got the Snow Serpent and the Cobra Eel. And the Cobra Eel is another favorite of mine that I always really liked. And I like the added details, like on the backpack and everything with this one. So a nice improvement over the original figure, and again, just a cool design, something I always really like. So again, Cobra Eel is definitely on my list and coming in at number 2.
Scrap iron! Now!
Finally, my number 1, it's another deluxe figure, another cool character, which honestly really didn't get a lot of use in the cartoon. He popped up here and there, and usually when he did pop up, he didn't have his missile launcher. Like I think in one of the opening credit scenes, they showed his missile launcher, but it wasn't something he actually used that often when he ever appeared in the cartoon. But I think, again, here Hasbro took the original concept and they improved upon it. So this, it's more of a tank-like thing with missiles than the original launcher was, which I think is really nice. Again, this is a deluxe figure. It does cost more, but I think this one is worth every penny. Being able to take his helmet off is really nice as well. But just, like I say, this has always been a cool character to me, and Hasbro just really outdid themselves with this figure. And if you were lucky, you maybe were able to pick this one up on discount at the end of last year. A number of places had it actually on sale. So even though it is a deluxe figure that was more expensive, there were opportunities for you to actually pick this one up at a fairly cheap price.
Crashing through the sky comes a fearful cry. Cobra! Spreading far and wide. Who can turn the tide? G.I. Joe!
Okay, so that's it. Now, as always, I'd love to hear your own thoughts. What did you like this year about G.I. Joe Classified? What were your favorite figures? What do you disagree with me on any of mine? Let me know in the comments section below. And like I say, to me, G.I. Joe has just been going strong. 2022 was a great year, and Hasbro actually outdid themselves this year. And as I said, it's really, in my opinion, the best action figure line out there. And really doesn't seem to be slowing down any. I mean, we're already getting pretty good indications that 2024 is going to have a lot of cool stuff. We're going to be getting things like the Vamp and everything. I'm really interested to know what this year's HasLab is going to be. We've got the Dragonfly that will be showing up towards the end of this year, which I'm hoping will be every bit as cool as the His tank that we got last year. And of course, we've got the Vamp, which I'm looking forward to, and who knows what else. So plenty of good things to come, I'm pretty sure. Whether they'll outdo themselves, again, 2023 was a pretty solid year, but I think they might be able to outdo themselves again. So we'll just have to see. But if you like this video, please hit that like button. And again, if you're new to the channel, please think about subscribing, hitting the bell notification so you're alerted every time I upload a new video. As always, guys, stay safe out there. Yo, Joe. And until next time, I'll catch you later. Or, if you're more inclined, Cobra! Hey, thanks for watching today's video, and be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that bell notification so you're alerted every time I upload a new video. And be sure to head over to the Toy News International and Marvelous News Message Boards communities. It's a great place to talk toys and win cool contests like $100 store credits to Big Bad Toy Store. And remember, action figures are great.